Keith Urban's love story, a true tale. Keith Urban is a famous singer. When he was 57 years old, he said something that surprised everyone. It wasn't bad news or a secret. It was just the truth about his life. For almost 20 years, Keith and his wife Nicole Kidman seemed perfect together. They had love, fame, and success. But there was something deeper that Keith kept inside for a long time. When he finally talked about it, he was honest and humble. His words changed how people saw his marriage and his music. What Keith said wasn't about endings, it was about understanding. Once you hear his story, you'll see everything differently. The boy who lost his home. Before Keith became famous, he was just a regular boy in Australia. When he was only 9 years old, a fire burned down his family's house. It didn't just destroy the building. It took away his feeling of safety. That scary night stayed in his memory forever. His dad, Robert, loved country music but got angry sometimes. His mom, Marion, was calm and kept the family together. Keith learned about love and hard times from both of them. When Keith picked up a guitar for the first time, he wasn't trying to be famous. He just wanted something that made him feel safe. Music became his best friend. Every song he played helped him feel better. He didn't know it then, but this need to turn sadness into music would stay with him forever. Growing up too fast. As Keith got older, he became really good at playing guitar. People in his town loved watching him perform. Bar owners asked him to play at their places. Everyone said he would be a star someday. But all this attention made him nervous. He felt like he always had to be perfect. His dad would praise him one day and push him hard the next day. Every time Keith played, it felt like a test. When the shows ended and everyone went home, Keith felt lonely. That's when he started drinking alcohol. At first, it was just to calm his nerves. But slowly, it became a bad habit. Music gave him fame, but it also gave him a place to hide his problems. On the outside, he looked confident. On the inside, he was struggling. He was learning that being talented doesn't mean you're happy. Moving to America and losing himself. In his 20s, Keith was already famous in Australia, but he wanted more. He wanted to go to Nashville, where all the country music stars lived. So he packed his guitar and moved to America. But things were hard. People told him, "You don't sound American enough, come back when you do." So Keith changed the way he sang. He tried to sound like American singers. He became successful, but he felt fake. Every hit song felt empty because he wasn't being himself. He started drinking more and feeling worse. Fame wasn't making him happy. It was making the sadness bigger. Behind every crowd cheering for him was a question: who am I when I'm not on stage? Meeting Nicole. In 2005, Keith met Nicole Kidman. It was quiet and simple, no cameras or fancy events. They were both hurt from their past. When they talked, it felt like they understood each other. Keith said, "She saw the real me before anyone else did." Nicole was calm and strong. Keith was honest and full of emotion. Together, they found peace. For the first time, Keith thought love could be steady and safe. They talked for hours about faith, family, and finding calmness in a crazy world. Friends said their connection was instant. For Keith, Nicole wasn't just someone he loved. She was someone who saved him. But even the strongest love can't fix everything. The hard times. Only 4 months after they got married, Keith's problems came back. He had stopped drinking, but the urge to drink returned. He checked himself into a rehab center to get help. Nicole didn't leave him. Instead, she got his friends together to help him. "She saved my life," Keith said later with tears in his eyes. The news reporters wrote stories about it, but the real story was two people choosing to fight together. Keith got better, but he knew the battle wasn't over. Even after healing, the scars were still there. Success and struggle. Keith's music career took off again. His albums became huge hits. Nicole was also successful with her movies. They looked perfect to everyone. But behind the smiles, they were tired. Long tour, endless interviews, and little rest were wearing them down. Friends noticed they seemed exhausted. Keith was performing every night, but he felt empty inside. The applause got louder, but Keith and Nicole's connection got quieter. Fame was taking over their lives. To the world, they looked perfect, but those close to them saw the problems growing. Living apart. Keith and Nicole were still in love, but their busy lives kept them apart. Keith was always touring. Nicole was always filming movies. They lived more on planes than in their own home, Keith once said. Then Keith wrote a song called Blue Ain't Your Color. Many fans thought it was about Nicole. The song talked about love slowly slipping away. Keith never said who it was about, but you could hear the sadness in his voice. Rumors started that maybe they were drifting apart, but they still held hands in public and smiled for cameras. That's what real love looks like, showing up even when things are hard. When his father died. In 2015, Keith's father died. Keith was heartbroken, but the next night he still performed his show. The audience saw a great performance. They didn't see that Keith was falling apart inside. Nicole came home and just stayed with him. She didn't try to fix everything. She just held his hand in the quiet. Out of that sadness came a whisper, "We start again." That moment changed everything. Keith focused on staying sober. By 2016, he had been clean for 10 years. "It's a choice I make every day," he said, "and she's the reason I keep choosing right." The calm years. By 2016, Keith seemed peaceful. His albums were successful. Nicole won awards for her acting. They looked like they had found balance between fame and family. They told reporters their marriage worked because they took turns supporting each other. Keith helped younger musicians. Nicole made movies that helped women in Hollywood. They turned their pain into something good. But even strong hearts get tired. By 2023, small changes appeared. They went to events alone more often. They traveled separately. Nothing big happened, just life changing slowly. The goodbye. By 2025, fans noticed Keith going to events alone. Nicole skipped movie premieres. Then Keith released a new song called Lanterns. It was emotional and talked about gratitude and love that changes but doesn't disappear. News reports said Keith and Nicole had quietly decided to divorce. They made a plan to take care of their 2 daughters together. Everything was calm and respectful. After 19 years of marriage, they were separating. When Keith finally talked about it, he was peaceful. "It wasn't a breakup," he said softly. "It was an understanding that love doesn't have to end to change." He called Nicole his anchor and the person who taught him about forgiveness. There was no anger, only peace. To the world, it looked like an ending, but to Keith, it was another beginning. What they left behind. Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman didn't leave behind drama. They left behind a lesson. Their 19 years together and their 2 daughters showed the world that endings don't always mean failure. Sometimes they're just a different kind of success. Their story isn't just about hit songs or movies. It's about choosing kindness over gossip. They showed that real strength isn't holding on forever. It's knowing when to let love change shape. Their daughters grew up watching 2 people who always respected each other, even when life took them different directions. Keith once said that peace isn't about being perfect, it's about being present. In his song, Lanterns, you can hear it, the calm after years of chaos. Fans still wonder if their story is over or just changing. But one thing is clear, they turned pain into purpose and silence into song. When Keith stood on stage at 57, his voice steady and his heart open, he didn't confess a loss. He confessed gratitude, because love in all its forms had saved him, and that became his greatest gift to the world.